Hello and welcome to Heartcast, where we'll do our best to understand a sequel comic from 20 years ago, and the only one of us have recently read. I'm Humphrey Erm.
And I'm Christian Claus.
Lifeline. Give me Q2, The Return of Quantum and Woody. Alright, my first question here immediately. How confused were you?
I was so confused.
So, are you or are you just being fun?
No, I actually was really confused.
Yeah, I imagine so.
I really did not enjoy this comic. Like, it was so confusing. There was so much stuff going on. The worst thing is you cannot be confused when there's clones involved. Or like all these people who look the same, have the same name. And I mean, if the characters themselves in the story are confused, then how the hell am I supposed to be like aware of what's going on? And honestly, I gotta say, the only saving grace that was in this comic were those summaries at the beginning of the next volume or the next issue. I actually started reading those every single issue because I didn't understand what had just happened. And I think it's kind of sad to say that I kind of needed those to kind of figure out what's going on, because them going back and forth, I just didn't have any idea who like this Richard guy was, why he was like who he was, and then who the kid was, and then it was going back and forth about like he's actually Woody and then he's not Woody, and then the real Woody came, and then I was kind of looking at them going like, okay, so here's superhero Woody, Jewish Woody, and Kid Woody. That's how I was looking at them. And then it turned out that wasn't even Woody. Like the guy was Richard, and the kid was like someone else, like a synthetic human, but he wasn't actually. It was actually the other guy that was synthetic, but then he wasn't synthetic. It's just like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, no, I
just,
agree. But it's yeah, I don't know, just because it's an interesting setup in terms of on a meta level. What's called Valiant has rebooted, the Valiant universe, and Quantum and Woody came through at the second reboot during the Acclaim era, the one I mentioned about like the video game company. So they weren't even part of the very original period. And they've rebooted Quantum and Woody as well with the ones we've already read. But then having but then actually, I mean, this really feels more of a like how would our word be, sort of like an artistic thing. Because I'm not sure how many people were like super interested in a sequel to that old comic.
Yeah.
So for them to actually get a hold of the original writer and artist,
Oh, really?
yeah,
Okay.
it's the exact same writer from the original series and the same artist. And what's called to have them like get them together to, hey, want to make like a mini series. And then it's just kind of like, okay, cool. I mean, I appreciated it on that level.
Yeah, I kind of do now that you're telling me about it. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. That's a nice little homage, I guess, if you would call it that.
But it doesn't really. I mean, again, who knows? Maybe the writer had like a lot more clout or something, so he just really wanted to continue a bit with this like time skip, like an actual time skip, since it's been so long. But I don't know. I feel they could have done a better job just making things clearer about the previous like status quo.
Yeah.
Especially because I'm assuming people who have been reading Quantum and Woody from the reboot, will pick this up as well then if they like it. You're like, oh, there's some more Quantum and Woody. And then having this whole setup here is like, wait, what? Like, where's the
Yeah.
where's the Edison people? Where's the Agent 69? Or no, Clone 69 and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So what's called? I feel they could have done
And
something more to just make that clearer.
and this wasn't a comedy either.
So no, but I think he wrote about that. I guess you didn't read that message from the writer at the end,
No, I didn't.
because he let's
I thought I read I thought I read everything. Oh wait, you mean like that whole long like letter thing that he wrote?
yeah, the afterword.
Yeah, I did skip that. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, but yes, he mentions himself too that his series was never funny.
Okay.
Um, what's called? Let's just see here, quote wise. It was an action adventure series that had one funny guy in it, someone who relentlessly mocked everything going on. much of the way MD Doc Bright does. So he's mentioning that theirs was a satire, while the reboot is a farce. I don't know. I kind of thought that was an interesting little distinction he was making.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Because it's true. I mean, everything that happens here would work as a straight, what's called superhero story.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, it did feel a little bit, how do you say? It did feel typical. Like, it didn't feel like anything different.
But then you have Woody there, just, mocking everything and pointing out all the flaws in people's reasoning. So, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I remember I read this before having read that omnibus they have on Comixology, where they have the entire original run in one volume.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's not that bad. I think it's like maybe 20 issues. So it's, I guess, kind of like I guess kind of like 4 or 5 volumes of separate volumes. So, but even then, rereading it now, having read most of that, it's still kind of like, man, I'm having trouble keeping track of everything. Because something else that I found was really funny with this volume, if you noticed, did you notice all those covers for non-existent issues?
Yeah, I kind of like that. It kind of felt very 90s.
So yeah, but that's the whole thing there. It's because I think the series ended at issue 20 or whatever I said. So the idea then that, like, okay, what if we had continuously published this during the time it was canceled or like over?
Yeah, didn't they have that thing at the bottom or at the end, like the forgotten issues or something like that?
Yeah, the lost years or something.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
But it was just like the collection of the...
of the covers, yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of nice because they kind of... Because some of them do, I do understand like the meaning of from the other issues. But it's like so like... I don't know, they're just so clickbaity.
Yeah.
Quantum and Woody, no more. Like standing with a grave and like, oh, wonder what happened. And like the broken promise, like just all cliffhangery.
Of course. On one of them, he's even hanging from a cliff.
Oh, true, yeah. A plank.
Well, still.
What's called plank? Oh God, I don't know. The moment I said like plank, I could not finish it with hanger because it just didn't flow.
Plank hanger. Yeah.
So, but what's your thought then? Like, if you want to compare like the reboot, I mean, it's hard to compare since this is like a sequel.
Yeah.
But
a sequel to the first movie that I didn't even see.
Exactly. But you've seen the rebooted version.
Yeah. That's weird.
Yeah, you what's cool? You're watching Spider-Man 3, but you hadn't watched Spider-Man 1, but you did watch all of Amazing Spider-Man.
Exactly.
As I guess the closest thing I can think of from the top of my head.
Yeah, so I watched Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2 and then watched Spider-Man 3. Thinking like, oh, this is 3, right? So that should work, right? I kind of do like this a little bit better. I mean, it was very convoluted. It was very confusing the entire way through. But I did kind of like it better because it did have Quantum or Eric being more of a straight man than in the reboot. Because in the reboot, the problem I have always with Eric is that he's just so kind of incompetent. Because he's always talking about being a hero and getting things done, but he never actually does, and it just ends up being him and Woody just kind of like arguing and trying to be funny, but it's not really funny, and it just feels like they're just like messing around, getting nothing done. And if they do get something done, it's more like it's an accident that they did get something done. It was more like they were in the situation kind of resolved itself around them. And with this, it felt more like, no, Eric was like pulling the strings. Eric was actually getting stuff done. He was doing things the way he thought they had to be. And Quantum can then be the total loser that just sits around and does nothing and kind of has to get goaded into actually doing something. And he can then make the commentaries on the stuff, even though it sometimes get really old. Like his whole thing with that the kid Woody like identifies as a woman. I mean, maybe have him comment on it once, but he kept on commenting on it where it just wasn't funny anymore. It was just kind of like, okay, I get it. You're a dick. Like, okay, we get it. But I think generally this dynamic works better. It works better than the other Quantum and Woody comics.
All right, but then there might be some what's called might be some what's the word reasoning then behind the writer's afterword then.
Yeah.
So since in this case, yeah, it's just this one funny guy rather than everyone just kind of being idiots.
Right. I mean, with the on like page 152, when young Quantum young Woody, the kid, is there sitting with Eric,
Mm.
kind of like putting on the suit and crying and kind of like talking about the button. That was actually like, you know how like with the other Quantum Woody, when they started being serious, I was like, I know I can't take you serious right now.
Yeah, because everything is just so silly that now you don't know. Oh, I'm supposed
Right.
to be all emotional now.
Yeah, you can't do that. But with this, I felt it. I felt that there was emotion behind it. There was, I mean, obviously I had to read up why they were like this, but the whole thing with the gas and Eric not wanting to kill this, this one prototype, it's understandable. These feelings are understandable. It was like, yes, this feels correct because Eric was always serious.
Mm.
He wasn't making fun. He wasn't joking around. They had the goat in there, but it wasn't like a focus point or anything like that. This relationship here, that was real. Woody can go off and be an idiot in other parts of the story, and he can just be an idiot generally. But this was real. I like this.
All right, that's interesting because that's one thing that I really like the change done in what's called a reboot by making them adopted brothers because that's not how they were here.
Yeah, I got that. It
Yeah.
was. I mean, also again, I only got that after reading the summary when
Mm.
they said frenemies.
Yeah. Because I don't know, because it's one of those things. I think I've mentioned this once to you before, but there's this comic strip called the Piranha Club, and it was called the artist and writer for that in the Swedish like publications for it.
Hmm.
He showed kind of like a bit of the process as he was like figuring out the series. And a key component of that series is that there's what's called there's this sort of like loser protagonist, and he has this uncle who's just like a sleazeball who con man. But early on in his development, they weren't supposed to be related. They were just supposed to be friends.
Hmm.
But as his editors told him that, let's see, I think I remember this correctly in the Swedish translation. It's called Mickey Mouse can talk, Dumbo can fly, but no one would ever believe that a guy like Sid would have a friend, like the con man.
Right. Right.
And that's the thing. Once you make someone related, you have this sort of, you have to be like a relate, like connected. Like you can't just ignore family, even if it's like adoptive.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
in
I
this case
mean,
here, I'm like, dude, just. I mean, I feel like seeing those like flashbacks with Woody. I
mhm.
mean, good lord, what an asshole!
Yeah.
And you know me, I like assholes, but here it felt like I didn't.
Oh, I know you like assholes, Humphrey.
No, but it's like it's. I don't know, it's just kind of like, oh wow, dude, it's just like so really extreme with just being. I mean, like just grabbing that gun and stuff. You're just like, ah, good lord, man.
Yeah. Also, I mean, now that we're on the topic of that flashback there, what did you think about that flashback?
The very first one, or
Well,
the.
yeah, the whole like when they were kids in that camp.
So I mean, honestly, I would have loved to have read a whole story about this like summer camp.
Yeah, me too.
Because
Me too.
I don't know, not. I mean, I have some experiences with summer camps that like stuff. So
Yeah.
not just so much this American type you always see depicted, but again, it's something interesting. Like okay, these kids, this adventure. I mean, heck, it's. I don't think they actually made any reference to it, but I was thinking the whole like Stephen King kind of thing with
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely.
finding a dead body and all that. So, but it is also one
What
of
what
those things where you kind of get a bit. I don't know, because
Yeah, but what about the resolve?
oh, well, it's kind of cheap.
Yeah, right?
But it makes sense. I mean, especially now, like the second read through, both from having read it and also having read the original series. The fact that this has never been brought up before, like in the original series, would mean that it must have like worked out pretty okay. Because this would have been this is like such a big thing. If you did actually kill him, it would have been a very big thing to happen.
Yeah, but this is kind of like my problem here is that All right. So, what are the chances of a guy seeing a bear, shooting him, and then having a heart attack while he shoots a starter pistol? One. I can get away with that. But what are the chances that when this kid picks up that gun and then points it at this guy's brother, who also has heart problems, shoots him with the starter pistol, and then this guy also has a heart attack right at that moment?
Hmm.
That is the problem where I thought, like, if they would have just done it that the guy had faked his own death, you know what I mean? Like if the second guy had, I mean, obviously the second guy knew that it was a starter pistol because that's why he was acting like that, right?
Mm.
If the guy had just, I don't know, acted like he was dead, then the kids run away because he thinks that they killed him, and then he could have his peace and take his money and stuff like that and just leave. That would have been made more sense, because then that would be like, okay, it's not a coincidence that two. I mean, what coincidence is it that two brothers have a heart attack in the same day, or like the same week, or I don't know how long he's been out there. You know what I mean?
So yeah, no, what's called? I agree. I mean, it what did feel a little bit too like, don't worry, all these things that happened, they didn't matter.
Exactly.
But again, it's one of those things where, as I mentioned, because again, since this is based on another continuity, it would have to kind of work out in that sense. So, but it's I don't know, I mean, again, it was an interesting read just because of the whole. I mean, it's this kind of late arrival thing where you can tell there's a lot of like backstory between all these things.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, a lot of these things, especially with the what's called Young Woody and Jonathan, it's only for this like comic, so that's not like anything from the previous stuff.
Well, yeah. I mean, you said it was a time skip forward, so it looks
Mm.
like they've gotten older then.
But yeah, I don't know. It was an interesting read. I felt reading it again now with the what's called original series on my mind. So, but I don't know. The original series was a lot more fun, though. I think.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean they had a lot more. I think he even mentioned it in the afterword a bit. The one point they broke into farce was the time where they switched bodies,
Mm-hmm.
and then they had a moment where they had to go to the bathroom, both of them, but then they didn't know what was more gay, like grabbing the new dick or each other's dicks.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So it ends up with them like they felt it was less gay to grab the other person's dick because at least that's their dick, like in
Oh my
mind.
God.
And like some guy
Oh,
walks into a room as they're, you see them from their back with their hands at each other's crotches.
oh,
You go,
Jesus
and then you
Christ.
guys go like, "What? You never seen two guys piss before?" But that's like a funny thing because it's something that can't happen,
Yeah.
and then it's just this whole like, oh god, like the reasoning coming behind it is like just so
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Oh man.
That's what I mean. I felt there was a lot more like amusing things there, as well as and also from the original series, which I think was present here a bit with Woody, for being like this sort of like the idiot. He's actually not that stupid at times. In the original series, he had a lot of moments like where Eric would go all about like, oh, we found this clue left from these bad guys, and I was using all my reasoning skills and research to figure out where it was, figure out these symbols. So, and then Woody could he just checked it a little bit and noticed that it said like made in China.
Mm-hmm.
So they went to China. And similar here too, when Eric's like in the hospital, and Woody's actually done, research there, and found all these flaws, like, let's go, they're not clones, they're not this.
Yeah.
I don't know, I like that. Though it does get
Well, I mean, that's the
confusing.
thing. That's the,
Hmm?
to quote Tropic Thunder, never go full retard. No, but that's literally what it is. I mean, in a different way, it is like that. I mean, if you make someone a total idiot, I mean, if he's mentally handicapped or not, you know what I mean? It's just like,
Mm.
with Quantum or with Woody, it's just like, if he's a total idiot, what do we have from him? He's just an idiot who's running around, just a boring character. But if he's an idiot savant, then that's something else. Or if he just doesn't care about being or showing his smart side, or he just doesn't like, because there's so many people who are so smart who just don't want to live within like the societal structures or some shit like that. So that they just, how should I say it? They act in a certain way specifically because they don't want to be that smart person. They don't want to be the guy who wears a tie and goes to work every day. He wants to sit at home playing his song or having his one hit wonder or whatever that was.
Medicine woman.
Right. I mean, that's what he wants to do. I mean, it doesn't mean that he's dumb. And that kind of helps us it makes him a real person. You know what I mean? So I like that it's like that. I mean, I think with the reboot, the one that we've been reading, he doesn't have any parts of him that feel nice. I mean, how do you call it? He has no redeeming qualities.
Mm.
That's the problem. He doesn't have any redeeming qualities, so he just seems like an idiot.
So yeah, no, I can agree with that. But I think because of the whole brotherly like connection there, I can like accept that more. Like here, I really do wonder why they hang out at all. I mean, besides the whole, they have the same issue here with the Clang stuff. At least not right now, of course. That's why they haven't seen each other for a while.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, and that's the whole, it's a good, I was not mechanic, device. Two people who really hate each other, but they can't be too far away from each other, otherwise they'll explode.
Right.
I mean, that's great. That's hilarious.
But I mean, that's what I mean is like in this comic, when they figured out a way to remove the shackles, they literally didn't talk to each other.
Yeah, but it makes sense.
Yeah, of course it makes sense. I mean, but also from my point of view, if your family acts like that, then you kick them out of your lives right away.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like obviously, if you're living with your parents and you can't get out because you don't have money or anything like that, then there's a different thing. But if it's like your uncle that you see like whatever a couple of times a week or something like that, or you see him a couple of times a month, and he's just such a shitty person, just whatever, he just abuses you or uses you or whatever, not abusing like physically or anything like that, but you know what I mean? There's no point to be like, oh, let's stay together, let's keep seeing each other because you're my uncle. No, it's like, you fuck off.
Mm.
Like, I never understand when people are like, yeah, but they're family. It's like, who cares? If they're shitty people, they're shitty people. Cut them out of your life. You're not doing yourself any favors.
So, oh no, definitely.
So that's why I think like, I mean, I can understand that there are some people who like with this, like with the setup with the reboot that they're stepbrothers. Yeah, I can understand that there are people like that who think they need to help out or help their family get to places. But so I can respect that from the story, but I just think that from my point of view, being good friends and being stepbrothers, kind of there's no difference there.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. Again, it's all what's called. I mean, it's subtle differences, but I feel I much prefer the reboot's setup. But you definitely can tell the difference in writing as well.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So, and again, I always appreciate it when, because again, as much as I don't mind, like the what's called the American superhero comic system, with just switching writers and artists around. Because again, they've made some really cool things with that kind of system. I do like it when you have when it's creator owned and it's the creators, who are doing it. So seeing them kind of come back to the fray is kind of interesting.
Wouldn't it be interesting to have comics written like TV shows?
So how so, you mean?
Like in a writer's room?
Oh yeah, that would be interesting. And then you just have that one guy who does the final script, but it's all
right. Right. So you have I mean, obviously it would be a smaller writer's room, but you could have for one volume, because you're always writing for the trade, you could have 4 or 5 writers all together, then they all discuss what they're going to do, and then you write them all together. I mean, obviously I think maybe you don't need that because the production of a how a comic takes much longer than a production of a TV show. So, you know, there's no time stress, so you don't have to have like a team of people writing it like that. But yeah.
That's true. I don't know. I mean, the closest thing I could think of with that kind of scenario would have been the 52 series.
Oh yeah.
So, because I remember reading the behind the scenes stuff in the collected editions of those, where you'd have like, it was like just a collection of all the best writers currently working at DC there, and everyone just throwing ideas at each other and writing together basically, because it was basically five writers on one series. But because the series had like six, seven different threads, you know, each one was kind of in charge of separate ones, but then also they had to work together to how does this connect? Ah man, I want to read that again. Such a good series. It's like the only thing I've ever heard where people are like 100% positive about it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, I've never heard anyone say like, "Oh God, 52 sucked." Like there can be discussions about what's stronger within
Yeah.
it, but never like, "Oh, it was such a terrible idea."
Oh man, maybe I should read that.
I have them. I can just see if I can bring them over when we see.
Ooh.
So or get them digitally. I don't know.
Yeah. We'll see.
But either way, you know, that's straight from Valiant again. So, but yeah, I don't know. Now here's something I remembered you mentioning in I can't remember the episode, but you had seen that preview from the first issue several
Oh yeah.
times. What did you think of the art this time? Because you obviously, yes, you know, brushed past them, but now that you've had the whole volume, what did you think of MD Bright's art?
It's good. I mean, it's different. I guess it's more classical. But I gotta say that that part that's been used to advertise this issue, or that issue, was not the best to take. Because the art did not look that great. I mean, there were points in this where I really loved the art. I mean, especially the backstory when they were in that summer camp that looked really really nice.
Mm.
And I mean, that whole sequence when they're in the museum, that does not look good. I mean, I don't know what it is, if it's just the shading or something, but the idea of that close up on that face, it just looks so weird. Like his face just looks so weird, and I don't know that. It's so hard to explain because I don't have the right words for discussing art, but a lot of it just looks very. The lines are too thick. Maybe that's it. I don't know. I can't
Yeah,
explain.
no, it's fair. I mean, I think I can see a bit what you mean. I mean, I'm looking at it right now. And there's nothing like inherently wrong, but the only thing I can
I
think
know
of that
it's
might
not like
look a little bit off is his chin in the first panel.
yeah, that might be it.
So,
Yeah.
but that's more of like I think the coloring there helps a bit to give it shape, but otherwise it feels very flat.
Maybe the neck is also a little bit too thick. I mean, it's not that thick in the second panel of that thing, and it just kind of looks odd. I mean, that close up it just looks odd. I mean,
Mm.
I don't know, but that kind of turned me off of those whole 3 pages, and just everything kind of looked too.
Well, it's very heavily cross-hatched as well. This style.
Yeah. Okay, maybe that's it.
So
I don't know. It's hard to explain, but there's something that just turns me off of these like 3 pages. I mean, the rest of it wasn't that bad. I mean, it was. I mean,
yeah, but just
I don't know. It just looks so much nicer. I mean, especially if you just go on to like the next couple of pages, especially when Woody finally meets Quantum again. That looks perfect. I mean, that looks beautiful. It's really nice. It has a distinctive art style, and it's not bad in any way. It looks really good. But somehow it just those 3 pages just look so weird.
yeah, no, I mean it's what happens. What's called. I mean, I never really thought they were a problem in that sense, but I remember seeing those previews a lot myself, and I was reading these by myself.
Mm.
So I'm kind of like, okay, I'm curious what this is all about. But what's your thought then? Because this is something I noticed both here and in the original series. What's your thought on his like reuse of panels?
I didn't even notice he reused panels.
Really? Because like you're mentioning when he met like with well, it wasn't technically Eric, but when the tank comes in, there's like four panels with the exact same setup except for what's called.
Oh, you mean like that? Yeah. Um, I don't mind that. I mean, especially with this kind of thing, especially in that scenario, it works because it's supposed to be like a back and forth real quick.
Mm.
So you kind of read it quicker too, especially when they just kind of go back and forth with their like,
Well, yeah,
you
the
know,
information's already been given, so you're not like spending time with your brain just kind of like figuring out the image. So you're focused
actually,
on the
you know what?
words.
You know what this is? This is a perfect way to do quick comedy. Like comedy that's based on how fast you read something. Because I was not distracted by the panel. If the comedy is in the words, then you should have the same kind of panel layout because my eyes looked at this and looked and realized, oh, all of these four panels are the same. So now just read the dialogue. You don't have to read dialogue, look at panel, read dialogue, look at the panel again. Go back to another panel, look at the panel, read the dialogue, look at the panel. Next panel, read the dialogue, look at the panel. You know what I mean?
So yeah, no, I agree.
So I was able to read it quicker and I got that whole feeling of going back and forth, like blow me, bite me, draw straws for the sequin. You mean like your mother? Your mother was her wooden teeth on my nightstand. A-hole, A-wipe. What does it say? Stooge, stiff, dark, dweeb. All these, dork, sorry. Dork, dweeb, junk, dirk, jerk. I can't read from this far away. Jerk, punk. Just all this stuff. Like it's like it went quick back and forth. And then I was like, I wasn't looking at all the panel stuff because I didn't have to. Because it was always the same.
So yeah, no, what's called? But that's something I've mentioned before as well. What's called this website called the Temple of the Seven Golden Camels.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's a story artist from Disney who has it. So you're right, he posted very really interesting stories about working at Disney as well as just art in general. And he had this one post once about like how what's called angles reflect comedy and drama. I think I might have brought this up before. He mentioned like how most comedic like comics and movies, like the angles always sort of straight on to in order to not distract from like the comedy. So like there's very little comedy where you have very dramatic angles.
Oh yeah, of course.
And again, the same thing here. It's straight on. Yes, as you said, keeping focus on this one angle. And yeah, just doing all these things. But there's other moments too where he has this like reuse and like sometimes it's not that it bothers me. It's not like a big like oh how lazy is he? But actually, I
Mm.
feel it could have benefited from a few like changes. Like let's see here, I had it up here before. Here we go, page 149, the last three panels. I mean, I don't mind having like the mouths closed when they're talking because I'm just assuming this quote unquote picture was taken while the mouth was closed. But it still kind of here feels like they're exactly the same in I guess not entirely relaxed positions. With what's called Woody's arm up and he's always smiling.
Yeah.
So there, I kind of feel what's called again, not that it had to be very different, but just a little bit of a change, maybe in the last panel at least. Again, not a big deal, but just something. It's one of the moments I kind of felt like, eh.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't see a problem with that. I mean, obviously, um, if you do it just purely out of laziness, I mean, we see that a lot with like web comics where it's
Oh
just
yeah,
the same face. And I mean, someone has, I mean, I don't know what the guy's name is, but he's a lot on this like comedy cemetery because his jokes are just not jokes anymore. It's like Adam something. I can't
oh
remember what his
wait, that
name
guy
is.
who has like the same like face for everyone, or
Yeah, something like that. I think someone once did that where they took like a lot of his comics and they just put the
and they
face on top of each
perfectly
other.
imposed.
Yeah, it's perfectly. The only thing is like his eyes are a little bit different and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, no, I remember.
I mean,
Yeah, I know the guy you mean. Feel
yeah,
bad
you
for
can
the
probably
guy
see it.
though. In terms of
Yeah,
everyone
yeah, yeah.
just hacking on him.
Yeah, I mean, something like that I can see as being quite lazy. I mean, obviously, if your art style is the kind of art style where you can just take the Illustrator design or the Illustrator, curves and just kind of repurpose them, then why not? I mean, whatever. But I feel like in this, they never used this panel duplication thing where it didn't fit.
It was always for those kinds of things, like the tank scene.
Yeah, yeah, and they don't use it so often that you kind of feel like they're being lazy. It just feels like
It feels
no, here
purposeful.
yeah, it purposeful, it works. I mean, sometimes you want to do that when you want to have like the pacing in a certain way. I mean, I've even written that in my own comic, which I had then deleted, I think, even because at the beginning of the comic that I'm writing, there's supposed to be like a slow movement, right? I mean, you've read it. I mean, I don't know if you read the version with that in it, but the idea was that something small changes in the panel each time. So it's like 4 panels, and each time something small changes. And that's a way to do pacing, and it's the same thing here. I mean, it's a pacing thing. You don't have to look at the panels anymore. You can just read through because the dialogue is more important now.
Yeah, no, I agree. And again, it's definitely clear that what's called MD Bright can draw. I mean, he has, what's called, he does backgrounds, character action.
Yep, definitely.
So yeah, definitely doesn't feel like it's one of those like, oh yeah, I'm just it's my quick cheap thing to meet the deadline.
Right.
Though sometimes in the original series, I think they had like ones like a whole page with like the same panel
Oh, damn.
and
Okay.
just like dialogue changing and like some then without any dialogue. But it does work for this hitting a beat.
Yeah.
So, but all right. Honestly, I'm not sure I have all that much more to say. Because
Oh no.
again, in this case too, it's sort of out of continuity with what we're reading, so we don't even have like that to like compare it to. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm not really sure. Do you have anything else to add?
I don't know. I mean, I think I think this could have maybe. I mean, again, the confusion thing was just a little bit hard. I mean, I don't know if I would have understood it better if I had read the original, or I guess one of the problems was I just didn't know when it was a flashback and when it was just Richard. You know,
Hmm.
because it did look very similar, and I noticed there were no time indication.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Except for one time it said it, obligatory flashback. It said it. I think it said somewhere,
Hmm.
but it only said it once, and that was it. I mean, obviously between the kids and the
Yeah, those are easy.
those are easy to understand, but like the time when he was having sex with Amy,
Yeah, Fishbine was it?
yeah, something like that. I didn't understand that was a flashback. I had no idea what was going on, and it is kind of difficult to kind of know. Okay, well, what's a flashback now? I mean, because of course Richard doesn't look any different ever, and even Eric doesn't always look old. I mean, you know how black don't crack, but it's like one of those things where like he just always looks so young, kind of. So in especially in that time when when Richard was still the gardener, I didn't realize that that was supposed to be a flashback again because they
Hmm.
just had a flashback. And they were flashing back to Richard's memories, right? And it was kind of in sepia tone, and they were just kind of like talking, and then they're back in the normal time, and then suddenly Richard's mowing the lawn, and I'm like, wait, what? Like, what's going on now? And there's no time indication, and I know how everyone who's listening knows how much I hate time indications that don't make sense. But with this, I feel like it could have helped a little bit, but it could have helped a little bit with the confusion, I feel.
So yeah, no, it's fair.
And again, if
So
it was just something like, in the 90s or, that kind of stuff.
yeah, and again, because as you said, they did otherwise a good job with like very distinct designs based on because again, like young Woody was clear with the long hair,
Yeah.
so so very clear that okay, this isn't the kid Woody, but it's also not present Woody. So though you do get a little bit similar faces, though I guess that's on purpose as
Hmm.
well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's I do want to bring up one thing.
And then especially, sorry, just one last point with this whole thing.
Yes.
And then especially at the end when they clanked again, and then they were young again.
Right, yeah, that's
I mean, then suddenly Quantum had long hair again. Sorry, Woody. Sorry, let's get those two confused. Woody had long hair again. I mean, obviously, in this situation, you realize that it's not a flashback, and you know that they're just young or whatever. They got their powers back and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of difficult to keep track of a lot of this stuff. What were you going to say?
yeah, no, just something I remembered from the original series. I believe it was around issue 17 or so. So they got canceled. Like it actually ends with what's called after a huge battle thing. What's called there's a phone rings and Woody answers it and it says, "Ah, sorry, bad news, Eric. We've been canceled." And apparently, then they were canceled, and then they hadn't been publishing for quite a few months. But then they got back. But rather than continuing with issue 18, they start off with issue I think 34 or something, because that's how many
Okay.
months it had been between their cancellation.
That's pretty cool.
And then after that, they go back to issue 18. So they basically made like a flash forward with that issue.
That's actually pretty interesting. That's a nice little idea.
Yeah, and is it like a big thing? Do you mind spoilers or
For the previous one, for the
yeah for the original series?
no, of course not.
Yeah, because in that issue 34, it was called Woody's a villain who's gotten like powers and has renamed himself Dr. Eclipse.
Okay.
What's called Eric has a new sidekick, a young black girl now named Woody.
Okay.
And yes, I mean it's so purposefully like changed, just so people are
Yeah.
gonna be like, the hell? And then basically right after that, they're back to being quote unquote friends. But it was called. It just reminded me that it's very clear they have a style like this writer, so as well as the artist, like they seem to have like a good duo going on, because a lot of their original stuff is present here as well, and I like that. I like it when you can tell like sort of a style.
Yeah.
Not that they should be like locked in or typecast. That's how you get like Shyamalan's. You're like, oh crap, everyone wants a twist ending now. But here, like, it's just very clear that they have a, way of doing things. But yeah, no, I think we went through most of it then.
Yeah.
So that's in our usual little way.
Going back and forth.
Yeah. Should we leave it at that?
I guess so.
All right. Well, that was the 47th episode of Hardcast, detailing the return of Quantum and Woody. You can discuss this episode on Reddit, tweet us, or you can follow us on Facebook. Links are in the show notes. Also, all of our episodes are available on our hosting site, Podbean. Catch us next time for our next episode discussing Bloodshot Volume 6, The Glitch and Other Tales.
Was that other or udder?
Oh, Other. Yeah, not the cow one.